Welcome to Lecture 6 of Networks, Friends, Money and Bytes. The question we're going to formulate and answer today is, why does Wikipedia even work? Now the word work here is very vague, but roughly speaking it means that it achieves what is set out to do, to create a free, open, online, interactive encyclopedia. And there are many reasons why it should not have worked. We're going to take a look at the challenges it faced and then zoom in to a specific item of consensus formation. But before that, let's do a very quick recap of what we have been in the space of Web 2.0. We talked about Google's PageRank, which turns a graph of web page connection into a single rank ordered list according to the importance scores. Then we talked about Netflix recommendation, which turns a user movie rating matrix into many ranked order lists, one for each user. Then we talked about average rating on Amazon, or more generally speaking, rating aggregation, that turns a vector of rating scores for each product into a single scalar, and then use that to generate a ranking for different products. The last lecture, or this lecture, we will be talking about voting systems that turns a set of rank order lists, many of them, into a single rank order list. In terms of ambiguity of the problem statement, perhaps this is in ascending order. But clearly all four of them are very heavily used in both online space and our other aspects of daily lives. Now to Wikipedia, which was launched a little over a decade ago in 2001, and is a result of three movements. One is wikis as a template for online collaboration. The other is free and open software movement. And the third is the emergence of online encyclopedia. Wikipedia is free. It also does not compensate for your contribution as a writer to different articles. It is open. Anyone can write and edit and debate. It is dynamic. It changes both the number of articles and the details of many articles very dynamically. Sometimes as soon as announcement is made in the public or event happens within a minute, sometimes right at the same time as that event unfolds, it is updated. It's interactive. There's talk page, there's history page. You can interact with the other contributors or the editors, and it is extensively linked. In fact, when you Google search certain kind of keywords, Wikipedia articles are popped up. And then if you look at each wiki article, there are many hyperlinks embedded in the text and many footnotes at the bottom. So the wiki articles themselves also form a very large and extensively linked network. There are perhaps more links per node than the general web space, and there are many such nodes. Within a decade since its founding, Wikipedia has already 4 million English articles and altogether 27 million articles in many different languages. So by all accounts, Wikipedia has been very successful. It is not, however, the first attempt to build encyclopedia online, not even the first attempt to build it based on free, open, dynamic interactions. So there must be something that it did right and better than the previous attempts. We'll be looking at those momentarily. At the same time, we also recognize there are limitations. For example, there are misinformations. Some information on wikis are just wrong, especially in articles with a very small audience. But what is important is that Wiki provides an effective self-correcting mechanism. Usually the misinformation on reasonably popular Wiki articles are very effectively corrected by the community of contributors. There are also just mistakes, honest mistakes. Okay? But then again, everybody can edit an article, and the edit can stay there as long as no other contributors can present a better, stronger case otherwise. Then there are also missing information. No encyclopedia can include all the information you want. Different people also have different definitions of what constitutes an encyclopedic kind of article. But despite these limitations, Wikipedia has been extremely powerful. In certain fields like medicine, the Wikipedia entries are extremely well documented. So now we have to look at some of the underlying reasons, okay, including forming consensus on contentious articles among a community of possibly anonymous contributors. One way to look at the challenge of consensus formation is to look at the order of growth. For example, if we look at a network with many nodes and many links, we often say that there is a network effect, and a positive one, where something good grows as the square of the number of nodes n. Okay. The something good could be, for example, the utility of the presence of a node. And this implicitly assumes that every node is linked to every other node, or at least the number of links a node has growth linearly as n. So we'll later come back to this positive network effect, this n-square law, in various lectures. But today we also look at a complementary picture, that is 2 to the n law. Suppose each one of these n nodes is just a binary state of mind. For example, do I support a certain political position, or do I not support it? Then out of n nodes, there are 2 to the n possibilities of configurations. And yet we would like to reach a consensus. This exponential growth, 2 to the n, in the number of people in the crowd or network, highlights the difficulty of reaching consensus. There are just too many possibilities. And yet consensus we must reach, and what Wikipedia practice is what they call the good faith collaboration. There are rules and guidelines, there are mechanisms for encouraging collaboration. Consensus formation is one huge challenge. There are also 3 related challenges. One is that it is free. So how can something free work? In later lectures, and in fact in the first 2 lectures of this course, we saw how pricing information played a very important role in providing the right incentives. Well, it turns out that free here does not mean the pricing is nothing. There is also implicit pricing, and that is the amount of impact one can have. So you can call that fame, you can call that influential power. Basically, those who contribute to Wikipedia believe that their reward, even though not financial, can be immense. Their articles and writings might be read by tens of millions of people, might be quoted in various other articles, and give them a very big sense of satisfaction and accomplishment. So that is one reason why many people contribute a lot. There's also a very strong positive network effect, this n-square effect which is mentioned. as more people start to read a certain article, it provides even more incentive for people to contribute because they know the audience is very big. So the difficult part of Wikipedia is at the very beginning, around 2001 to 2002, when you didn't have as many audience. When people realized that Googling the term usually returns wiki article within the top 3 entries, then people will have much larger incentive, big incentive to contribute. We'll later, in the next lecture, look at the different trajectories of growth of popularity of a certain product or services and how the network effect plays in shaping that curve. The second challenge is that it's open to anyone, including those who are not experts, non-experts, including even those who are anonymous. And the saving grace for solving this problem is check and balance. While you can write anything arbitrary, but probably within a few seconds it will be corrected by somebody else. So having a large pool of community is very important to provide the checks and balance features. The third one that's open to any subject, including those that are sensitive in terms of religion or political or other social subjects. So there must be some guidelines and rules and some mechanism to enable a meaningful writing process and editing process for these subjects. So what are the policy and guidelines? There are 3 key policies and quite a few other guidelines. We'll just walk through the top 3 policies here. One policy in Wikipedia is abbreviated as V. It stands for verifiability. Okay. And this can be implemented in a mechanism which is external link. You cannot just claim something is true on a wiki article. If you want to contribute article or edit article with something new, you have to provide a way for people to verify it. If it cannot be falsified or validated, then it cannot be stated. Another policy is abbreviated as NOR, no original research. Because this is encyclopedia, it's not a peer-reviewed journal article. So you cannot say, I invented a new theorem or new law, or I made some new observation, and I'm going to go straight to write a wiki article about it. You can write about it, but first you have to submit it to some, say, journals or conferences, go through the peer review process that is based on scientific merits and back and forth, and then once it appears in some external link, then you can write about that in the wiki entry. The third policy is abbreviated as NPOV. It's a neutral point of view. And unlike verifiability and no original research, neutral point of view is much harder to enforce because it's not as clear-cut as to whether this policy is observed or not. But roughly speaking, it says that if you read an article, you should not be able to tell what kind of people wrote it. So for example, in US political articles, you should not be able to tell, is it a Democrat or a Republican who wrote this article? So the article must appear as objective and neutral as possible, to the point that you cannot easily identify the kind of label to the people who wrote this article. There are also quite a few other mechanisms here, including having a history page. Very few people would click that page, but you can always check that out. Every single edit in the entire history of the article is stored, and you can check that for yourself. There's also a talk page for discussion among the contributors and the editors. There's a reputation system. If you enter using your ID, then there's a reputation system of the ID. If you don't, then there's a reputation system of the IP address. Later in lecture 13, we'll talk about the Internet IP architecture. But basically, this is the address of the device that you use to enter your articles. And then there is a hierarchical community. There are many, many contributors. And then there's a small set of people who are editors. And then there is an even smaller subset of that who are more senior editors. And they form like juries. And they will debate and discuss and try to form a rough consensus on articles where the contributors hold a very different opinions. Okay? And eventually it can pop up to the highest level of committee to debate and discuss. So thanks to these policies and guidelines, and thanks to these mechanisms, some of these challenges faced by Wikipedia has been quite successfully tackled. So now what we want to go into more detail is how does this kind of committee operate. Okay. And they operate based on two kinds of mechanism. One is bargaining and one is voting.